I've trained clients to IFBB and Natural Pro Cards, to national and world records in powerlifting, as well as professional, Olympic, and CrossFit Games athletes. In today's video, I want to share 5 tips that I've recently used with clients to help their back development. Tip number 1 is to pause in the peak contraction of your back exercises. We want to make sure that when we think that we're contracting our back, that we actually are. When you pause in the peak contraction, you can feel what muscles are going to hold that pause. Often people will actually feel that pause in their bicep, which is an indicator that you're trying to hold and support the weight in your bicep and not your back. So when you pause in the peak contraction, if you don't feel the back muscles holding the weight, that gives you an opportunity to flex those muscles, get the tension in those muscles, and then when you perform the eccentric, the loaded stretch of that movement, you'll ensure that your back muscles are more involved. Tip number 2 is to actually have a slight pause in the full extension position as well. This will help ensure that you engage the back muscles to perform the concentric, the contraction portion of the movement. So we want to have a slight pause in the extension so we can ensure that we flex and squeeze through our back. We have a pause in the concentric, the peak contraction, so that way we know when we go into the eccentric phase, the loaded phase, that again our back is doing the majority of the work. Those 2 tips will help by far most people. The 3rd tip we have is to use chest supported exercises for at least one of your back exercises for your workouts. This helps prevent body sway and momentum from getting involved. You're going to notice that if you pause in the extension, you pause in the contraction, and you do a chest supported movement, you're not going to feel very strong. But that's okay because you're better isolating the back muscles. We would rather move any weight with the right muscle than more weight with the wrong muscles. The 4th tip we have is to use wrist straps. That can help you not focus on your grip as much. If you're performing the movement slow and controlled without momentum, you're pausing in the extension, you're pausing in the contraction, that's going to feel like a long time under tension, and you have a lot of things to think of. If we use wrist straps, that helps support your grip, and that way you don't have to focus as much on your grip, and it gives you more mental capacity to focus on the other cues that we really want to implement. The 5th tip we have is to train your back twice a week. I believe that training it twice a week is a really good frequency. When you find the right volume for that person and you perform it twice a week, like volume per workout twice a week, you'll find that every time you go into the workout, the back muscles are just barely recovered in the sense that you're recovered enough to do another workout. But there's still a little bit of sensitivity to those muscles, and that can actually help you improve your mind-muscle connection from workout to workout because you're still going to feel that muscle a little bit of soreness from maybe the previous workout. And a bonus tip that we have is to perform horizontal shrugs. When you're on a chest-supported exercise, that's a great opportunity to focus on just moving your shoulder blades. So you'll see in the video that I'm focusing on leaving my arms slightly bent, so that way I'm not just extended through the connective tissues. I want to have some responsibility in the muscles. And that also allows me to manipulate my upper arm bone around the kind of semicircular movement that our shoulder joint will follow when you're performing a horizontal shrug. This is a great way to decrease arm involvement and increase the focus on those back muscles. So adding in some horizontal shrugs, and I would prefer to do that in your warm-ups before your heaviest sets when you want to include the arms a little bit more. It helps you create more mind-muscle connection and more sensitivity to the back muscles related to the shoulder blade position. So that would be a great tip to add in as well. So these 5 tips have been absolutely great, and they've made a huge difference for the clients I've worked with recently. So implement these 5 tips into your next back workout and the way in which you structure your back training, and hopefully it'll help you as well. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments section below. That's it. Thank you for watching.